The story begins with a woman named Ava, who works at an art gallery owned by a man named Eugene. She has recently been broken up with by her fiancé, and ever since then, she has thrown herself into work, barely giving herself time to relax or enjoy life. Knowing that Ava had already paid for a honeymoon cruise, Eugene encourages her to go on the trip alone. He hopes the journey might help her heal and maybe even meet someone new. He also reassures her that work will be fine, since there are no upcoming exhibitions scheduled anytime soon. The story then shifts to the kingdom of Baldonia, where the crown prince Joseph lives alongside his loyal aide Reynolds. Joseph is known as a lover of art and secretly owns a famous painting called The Brink, created by a modern artist named Tobias. Not long after, Joseph meets with his family. His father, King Carl, is clearly upset after Joseph gets a speeding ticket, and the conversation quickly turns serious. The king reminds him of his future responsibilities as a ruler, while his mother, Queen Marta, begins pushing the idea of an arranged marriage with Princess Gudrun from Denmark. Unwilling to accept this path, Joseph is told to leave the palace for a while to clear his head and think about his future. Reynolds suggests a river cruise that travels through several European cities along the Danube, captained by a trusted friend of his. Since Joseph is the crown prince, his younger brother Prince Max worries that his identity could be exposed. Reynolds promises to manage the situation, which eventually convinces King Carl to allow the trip. A few days later, Ava arrives in Germany and boards the cruise ship for her solo vacation. On board, she meets the cruise director, Teddy, who is surprised that Ava is traveling alone despite booking a honeymoon suite. While Teddy helps the crew organize luggage, Joseph arrives and mistakenly assumes Ava is part of the staff. Ava nearly recognizes him because of his distinctive beard, but Reynolds quickly steps in and escorts him away before she can figure it out. Because his beard makes him stand out, Joseph decides to shave it off, revealing his face more clearly. This worries Reynolds even more, so Joseph comes up with the idea of using the name Joe to hide his true identity. That evening, Reynolds invites Joseph to dinner with the ship's captain, Miles, who is already aware of the secret. That same night, Miles also invites Ava to join them, along with a woman named Betty who has been on the cruise many times before. This is where their story begins. Welcome to Love on the Danube, Royal Getaway. During dinner, Joseph ends up sitting next to Ava and finally realizes that she is a fellow passenger. He shares his interest in art and explains that he is collecting artworks for a charity auction. The next day, when the ship docks in a new city, Ava runs into him again. She mentions that she is from Chicago and works at an art gallery. Since they share the same passion for art, Joseph invites her to explore the city together. While they're having lunch together, Prince Joseph starts to wonder why someone as beautiful as Ava is traveling alone. Ava finally opens up and admits that her engagement was called off. Since she had already paid for the trip, her boss still encouraged her to go and take the vacation anyway. During their conversation, Joseph shares that he is from Baldonia and is currently having disagreements with his father. He never mentions that he is the crown prince, instead claiming that his father keeps pressuring him to take over the family business as a CEO. When they return to the ship, Joseph tells Ava that she is easy to talk to and has a warm personality. Not long after, Reynolds approaches them, and once Ava walks away, he asks Joseph whether he plans to tell her the truth about who he really is. The next day, the cruise makes a stop in the kingdom of Baldonia. Teddy offers Ava the chance to join a guided tour of the royal palace. Joseph lies and says he once read a book about the palace, which allows him to explain hidden passages and stories about the royal family. While they are walking through the palace grounds, Reynolds approaches Joseph again and reminds him that he needs to choose a painting for the upcoming charity auction. Ava becomes interested in seeing the artwork as well. However, since the queen is still inside the palace, Joseph asks Reynolds to keep her distracted. Wanting to include Ava, Joseph takes her downstairs to view several artworks that he believes deserve to be seen by the public. He eventually selects one painting for the charity event, and shortly after that, Reynolds informs him that his mother is now walking through the palace. Once they return to the ship, Ava opens up to Teddy about her time with Joseph. She admits that something about him feels a little strange, though Teddy reassures her that the two of them seem to have great chemistry together. Meanwhile, King Carl and Prince Max continue calling Reynolds, asking for updates about Joseph and his progress with the artwork. Later on, Reynolds once again brings up Yosef's growing closeness with Ava, clearly frustrated that the prince is still lying to her. Curious and wanting to understand her better, Yosef asks Ava about her breakup with her fiancé, Simon. Ava explains that Simon received a promotion in New York, but never once asked if she wanted to go with him before ending their relationship. She even questioned whether he truly loved her, but his hesitation gave her all the answers she needed. Seeing how deeply that experience affected her, Yosef tries to comfort Ava, knowing that since then she has struggled to trust and open her heart to someone new. The next day, the cruise arrives in a city called Lynch, a place well known for its museums and art galleries. It also happens to be the home of an artist named Tobias. Ava remembers that Tobias once donated one of his paintings to a public library.
Tobias Hoffler?
Try artist salad.
Which sparks her curiosity. Because she admires his work, she invites Yosef to help her look for his place. After asking around, they finally find the apartment where many artists live. Along the way, the two of them talk more about Yosef's father and their complicated relationship. After a long walk, they eventually reach Tobias's apartment and find him busy working inside. Ava takes the chance to invite him to showcase his artwork at Eugene's gallery and leaves her business card so he can contact her later. When Ava learns that Tobias once painted a famous artwork called The Brink, she asks who he sold it to, since the painting is well known across Europe. Tobias recalls that it was purchased as a wedding gift for a noble couple. Because Yosef was the one who bought it, Tobias stays quiet to protect his identity. Later, while they are having lunch, Ava suddenly receives a message from Tobias with more information about the painting. He explains that it was sold to a man whose family owns a jewelry store in Vienna. At the same time, elsewhere on the ship, Reynolds confides in Miles about Yosef growing closer to Ava and his continued dishonesty about who he really is. Reynolds worries that King Carl may become angry if the truth comes out, but he also knows it is not his place to interfere in the prince's personal life. Sometime later, Miles and Teddy organize a painting competition for the cruise passengers. In the end, Reynolds and Betty turn out to be the winners. Wanting to lift Ava's spirits, Yosef invites her to go out together on a motorcycle ride. That evening, they arrive at a restaurant where Yosef treats her to a romantic dinner, accompanied by soft music. Ava is surprised by how magical the moment feels, and when Yosef invites her to dance, their feelings for each other grow even stronger, leading them to share a kiss. The following day, the cruise arrives in Vienna. Ava immediately asks Yosef to visit a jewelry store with her. Once inside, she starts asking questions about who purchased the painting, The Brink. Yosef is caught off guard when he sees photos of Max and his wife Catherine displayed in the shop. While looking at rings, a woman suddenly takes photos of them and overhears Ava joking about marrying Yosef. As they leave, Ava becomes convinced that Prince Max is the one who bought the painting. Yosef stays silent, afraid that revealing the truth would expose his brother's identity. Moments later, another woman openly takes pictures of the two of them together, making Yosef feel increasingly uncomfortable. That night, Prince Max suddenly comes to speak with Prince Yosef about the entire trip. During their conversation, Yosef opens up about how close he has grown to Ava, while also admitting that he is afraid of how she might react if she ever learns the truth about who he really is. Just like Reynolds, Max encourages him to be honest and introduce Ava to their parents. Still, Yosef hesitates, fearing that once Ava knows he is the Prince of Baldonia, she will see him differently. The next day, Yosef and Ava stop by another royal palace to request a painting donation. Yosef struggles to decide which artwork to choose, so he asks Ava for her opinion. As they move through the palace, they come across another famous painting that creates a warm and romantic moment between them, leading them to share another kiss. At the same time, Yosef begins receiving messages from his brother, warning him about news spreading that he and Ava are engaged. When Yosef returns to the ship, he quickly clarifies that the engagement rumor is false. He then decides that he needs to be honest with Ava, but before he can do that, he is called back to the palace by his father. When Yosef meets his father, he immediately apologizes for the rumors and explains that he wants to invite Ava to an upcoming royal event. At first, King Carl is hesitant because Ava is not from a royal background. However, he soon realizes that he cannot control who his son chooses to love. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Betty sees the news online and goes to Reynolds for answers. She is shocked when Ava suddenly appears and reads the news herself before Joseph has a chance to explain. Feeling hurt and betrayed, Ava becomes deeply upset. believing that Yosef never took the time to be honest with her. Later that night, Reynolds secretly helps Yosef try to explain the situation. Unfortunately, Ava is already too heartbroken to listen and refuses to hear any explanation about the lies that have come between them. The next day, the cruise finally arrives at its last destination, the city of Budapest in Hungary. There, Prince Yosef once again apologizes to Ava and admits that she is the first woman who has ever made him feel comfortable being himself, not as a prince, but as an ordinary man. To show how serious he is, Yosef invites Ava to a royal ball and tells her that he wants to introduce her to his parents. Sadly, the damage caused by his earlier lies still lingers. Ava feels confused and unsure about how to trust him again. When news of their separation reaches the palace, Catherine suddenly comes up with an idea to help bring them back together. That evening, Ava opens up to Teddy, who also apologizes for keeping Yosef's true identity a secret. Not long after, a crew member delivers an invitation from Catherine, inviting Ava to attend the royal ball at the palace. Along with the invitation, Catherine includes several elegant gowns and a heartfelt letter, expressing her hope that Ava will accept the invitation. The following day, the royal family hosts the grand celebration at the palace, and Reynolds also invites Betty to attend. During the event, Catherine guides Yosef to welcome Ava properly, giving him the chance to finally introduce her to his family. During the celebration, Yosef asks Ava to dance and gently asks her to stay in Baldonia so they can build a serious future together. As a final surprise, he reveals a special gift for her, the painting The Brink, created by Tobias, which he had originally purchased as a wedding gift for Prince Max and his wife. So the moral of the story is, if a prince lies, hides his title, borrows a fake name, and drags a woman across half of Europe, he should not be surprised when trust issues hit harder than a royal speeding ticket.